if you don't believe you can, you'll never try, and therefore you're right. Don't let that be you.
I love it.
Don't let that be you.
If you do not start, you'll never know what it's actually like to be in the arena.
Nope.
You cannot learn to swim by watching a YouTube video.
Nope.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we talked about constructive feedback and why it is a good thing. Today, for episode number 454, we are going to talk about why you will fail if you think this way.
So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that I think this concept, more than any other concept we've ever talked about, is actually more important to your long-term success.
I mean, I did technically create it, so I would agree.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you created the 1.0 version.
Look, Henry Ford. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, right. Model T. Still driving around in Model T. So, legitimately, though, no BS here. I actually believe that if you do not understand this concept, you will remain stuck for the rest of your life. And we've all been stuck at different points in our life, and we all are still stuck in other areas of our life. So this is not, black and white. There's a lot of gray area here. But basically what I want to do is break down two cycles. Okay, so there's two cycles on the screen. One of them is called micro failure for macro success. The other one is called macro failure. Now, on one end, we have success. On the other end, we put Jeft. And there's two things here. One, imagine someone is striving forever, maximizing their potential, maximizing their contribution, growing, learning, evolving, always. The other person is kind of always stuck, okay? So the first cycle, on the bottom left-hand side, is belief. In other words, you must believe that it is possible for you, and that it'll be worth it. If you believe those three things, then you would be at least willing to try. Try is the next part of this cycle. If you try, you're most likely going to fail to some extent. Now, let me define failure. If you try to lose 20 pounds and only lose 18, that would be considered failure. Okay? So, failure in this case just means that you didn't get the exact result you intended.
Right.
Okay? So, belief, try, fail. Now, if you fail to achieve an outcome that you set out for, you get pain, which is also in the form of feedback. If you get feedback, aka pain, they say if it stings, it sticks. You learn a lesson, okay? If you learn the lesson, you now have new awareness. Now that you have new awareness, you can actually make a better decision next time. And if you make a better decision next time, now you get better results. And if you get better results, now you have more belief in yourself. And so this is a cycle that goes up and up and up and up. So episode 1, Kevin interviewed me.
Brutal.
Brutal. And he believed that he could start a podcast called the Hyperconscious Podcast. He believed that he could get me as a guest, and he believed enough to at least try. He tried, and I guess in this case, you kind of succeeded, but in hindsight, it's a little bit of a failure because it was not great.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Let's say you reviewed the episode 1, and you were like, oh, that's terrible. You get pain. And then you figure out with that pain, new awareness. Okay, what do I want to do differently? Maybe swear less, maybe not swear in the intro, right?
Possible.
This, that, and the other thing.
Possible.
Now that you get new awareness, now you make a better choice. Next time, I'm not going to swear in the intro. Okay, now you make a better choice. Now you get better results. Now you get more listeners. Now that you get better results, now you believe in yourself even more. And now you go for a next level guest. A perfect example of what I'm about to go through is when you interviewed Justin Wren.
Oh, yeah, man.
Can you tell that story quickly?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no biggie. So it's interesting. Andrew Copeland, shout out to Cope Daddy. He said at the time, who was your dream interview? And I said, right now, my dream interview is a man named Justin Wren. He's a professional mixed martial arts fighter, as well as he literally goes to a Congo village and builds water wells for pygmies, for the pygmy village there. And, like, my goodness, the guy, he's a heavyweight fighter. He's like 6'3". He's got this giant beard, nicest dude in the world. Cool, right? Like, that's my goal. I want to interview Justin Wren. Okay, 2 days later, Justin Wren puts up on his social media that I'm taking 50 podcast interview requests this month. Oh, what are the chances of that? So I apply, I get chosen to do it. I talked to his booking guy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the only time we have is this time. Oh, geez, I'm going to be in a hotel after work. It is what it is. This was my first ever remote guest. I had a crappy laptop. I didn't have any of the equipment. So it comes up like it's the day of. Okay, I make sure I get out of work on time. I get to the hotel. I'm all set up, ready to roll. I make sure the other person I'm with isn't in the hotel room with me. I have
Nervous?
Oh, yeah, the most nervous. The most nervous. So the number comes in. Here we go. Hammer it. Fire interview. Like such a fire interview. 9.5 out of 10. Like it was really, really good. Good stories, good lessons, everything. Review it, unusable. It's unusable because Justin's connection was bad. It just wasn't great. It was just cutting in and out. I sent it out to get fixed. Like, there was only so much you could do. I literally couldn't post it.
Yeah.
So
because you couldn't hear Justin at all.
No, it was like there was clicks and it just wasn't good.
Right.
It wasn't good. Nobody would have been able to actually listen through it. I couldn't even listen through it. So that episode ended up not getting used, and that was like my first like, oh my God. Honestly, I think I kind of wanted to quit after that because it was like, and looking back, it's dumb because I thought that was going to be like the episode. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I thought Lori Harder, like, I think we've learned our lesson. But for me, that was my first like failure when it came to podcasting. But that was my first time I really ever went out of my comfort zone. So yeah, that hurt me tremendously. I followed up. I emailed, or I was talking to him. I think I texted him, and I said, "Hey, everything got jeffed. Can we do it again?" And he said yes, but it never ended up happening. So we'll do that at some point. But yeah, that was very painful for me.
I remember you texted me considering quitting.
Yeah.
And it was a whole thing.
It was brutal.
And one of the things that I want to say on this too, when Kevin was texting me in this very, very unresourceful state, I was aware subconsciously of these cycles. And I knew that was a micro failure for macro success if you don't quit. And this is going to be very clear when I go through this next cycle, whether or not you're living in that abundant place that I'm referring to, or if you were living in the other macro failure place. Okay, so one of them is micro failures along the way for macro success. In other words, you have a check-in with your girlfriend, and you get some feedback and some pain that you didn't anticipate about maybe your performance in bed or you're not romantic enough or whatever. And then you believe, though, that you can be the best man in the world for this person. Mm-hmm. So instead, you just go back to the drawing board. Maybe you read a book about erogenous zones, or maybe you learn about how to be more romantic, okay? And then you do it, and now you have even more success than you would have without the feedback. Okay, That's cycle one. That's someone who's always going to win in the long run, but even when they're appearing to lose in the short run. Next cycle, okay? Now, imagine you start out with no belief. If you have no belief in your ability to do something or accomplish something, you'll never even try. If you never try, you're not going to get any failure or any feedback. If you have no failure or no feedback, you're not going to have any pain, and therefore you're not going to get any new awareness. Okay? Because again, if it stings, it sticks. We can all think of a time when we got very, very hurt for making a very dumb decision, and then guess what? We don't make that dumb decision anymore. I have a friend back in the day who used to drink and drive. He got a DUI, and after that moment, he not only never drank and drove again, but he actually was mad at me if I even had one beer and drove, even though I was still within the legal limit. So just understand this cycle, okay? In this case, you get no new awareness, therefore you make no better decisions. If you make no better decisions, you get no better results, and therefore you still don't believe in yourself. And you get stuck here forever, okay? And so there's two types of people out there, and if you're listening right now, you know this. I want you to think of that person who always wins eventually. Think of that person that like everything they say they're going to do, they eventually do. They always get a new job. And you're probably sitting there thinking like, oh, it must be nice. It must be nice to always win. They always find a way to win. I don't get it. Even if they lose along the way, they always manifest their dreams. Okay, think of that person right now. Okay? The only difference between them and you, in my honest opinion, is two things. They never quit and they stayed in this cycle long enough to actually get better, to where eventually they did win, or they have more clarity than you do about what your genius zone actually is. So for me, if I'm trying to be an Olympic snowboarder, yes, I was on mountains at four years old, but I didn't snowboard consistently enough, whereas some people were on the mountain their whole childhood. It's going to be very hard for me now at 23 at 31 years old, to step on a snowboard and beat Seth Westcott. Okay. Is it possible? Yeah, in a decade from now, it is, if I'm 41. Okay. Is it likely? No. So if someone out there is super, super successful at whatever it is that they do, it's most likely just because they found their thing sooner than you and hung in there longer than you. That's it. You know?
It's interesting. What if you, instead of having no belief, what if you have a false belief?
Same deal. And that's a great question, Kev, because I was thinking about that. If you believe
Stop touching my toe.
Sorry. If you believe you're great at something when you're really not.
I think relationships, right?
Right.
Relationships. Your belief is that you don't have to change. It's every other person.
Yep.
So you never try to change. You never get any pain associated with how hard it is to change a behavior, a belief, or a habit. No pain. You don't get any level of awareness. So it's, again, like, my ex was crazy.
Right.
Right?
Every ex.
Yeah.
I just keep attracting these crazy people.
Maybe suck.
It's you.
Maybe you suck.
Right.
Maybe you suck. Because I know I'm not saying I sucked, but I definitely, upon further reflection, I was at least 50% of the problem every single time. Now,
right.
What does that actually mean? Sometimes, at least. Sometimes that means I didn't go when I should have. So maybe 50% of the problem wasn't my behavior necessarily, but maybe it was my belief that it would change when it wouldn't. So if I just walked away, I wouldn't have that, I don't want to say trauma, but I wouldn't have that experience. So I wouldn't say, oh, my ex was crazy. Like, no, probably not. You know, some people, quote unquote, crazy in relationships? Sure. But if you keep attracting them, there's a reason for that.
There is a reason for that. And so I guess think about it this way. And I talked to Kevin about this earlier. If you're out there listening right now, there's most likely a decision you made in high school. I want everyone listening to think of a decision they made in high school that was dumb as shit.
I got a good one.
I got one too. Okay, it's in my mind right now. I can't believe I did this. Okay, so
are we gonna talk about it?
No,
we can talk about mine.
Mine was when I lost my virginity, which is, again, it is what it is. But my belief was that would give me significance, and we're gonna talk about that on the next episode. By the way, I was 16 years old. We can tell that story another time. But the point is this. In high school, let's say you're out there and you made a very dumb decision. High schoolers make really dumb choices. Let's be real. They really do. Why?
No worries.
Why? They have low awareness. When you've only been on the planet for 15, 16 years, and most of that has been under the guidance of parents and teachers, and you don't really have very high awareness. You haven't made that many mistakes yet, but you're in the process, okay? Now, everyone out there, think of that decision. For me, it was losing my virginity at 16. Kev, you've got yours. Everyone think of that. Would you ever make that choice again? No, same. Okay, why? Because now you know it was a dumbass decision.
Right.
Why do you know that? Because you went through pain. Because you went through failure. Okay? There is no way around this. If you're out there right now and you think you make good decisions, you probably do at the level you're playing at now. But I guarantee you in 3 years from now, if you're on a growth trajectory, you're going to look back at the decisions you made and go, wow, I wasted so much time on that. I wasted so much energy on that. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. Kevin and I went back to episode 1 and listened to it live. And we were like, this is brutal.
Yeah, it hurt me.
Why? Because now we have a new awareness. We're looking at our current self at a past self going, you idiot. Okay? There is no way around this. So my question and my challenge for everyone listening right now, where are you stuck because you don't believe in possibilities for the future? And where are you really killing it on this micro failure for macro success thing? When it comes to the podcast, Kevin and I are very good at the micro failure for macro success. 450 episodes, that means 450 report cards on what we can do and be better. And that's why when we went back to episode 1, we were like, oh my God, it's
Brutal.
because we've gotten so much better, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Where, Kev, are you in macro failure? Or where have you been for the listeners?
I mean, I feel like early on success, any form of success or achievement. I didn't believe I could be successful. I didn't believe I could be a business owner. I didn't believe I could turn a podcast into a business. I didn't believe I could be a speaker. Everything. Like, that was my life. Genuinely. That was for the first 25, 26, almost 27 years of my life, that was very much my reality.
How did you get out of it?
I borrowed belief. Confidence conundrum. But I think that's
But like, so if a listener's there right now, what do they do? Practical tactics.
hire a coach.
Right.
Hire a coach or find a way to get around somebody who has belief. I found a way. Said, hey, I have a podcast. You want to come? You want to come aboard?
Right.
Right. But that started off with me interviewing Alan.
Yeah.
And Alan admired something in me, what work ethic or
for sure.
the fact that I was jacked at the time. That I had something that Alan valued.
Right.
Alan had a lot of things that I valued. I found a way to get in his orbit. Luckily for me, I found a way to stay in his orbit. And I've seen or spoken to Alan almost every single day for the last 4 years.
Right.
Or probably 3.5 years.
Right.
All right. So is it that easy? Well, no. That has come with tremendous amounts of pain. Right. Like, I will not sugarcoat it. It's been very painful in many ways. And, you can go back and listen. I've talked about Brant going to his house and being like having a panic attack almost, even though I should have been enjoying that moment, or comparing myself to Alan and whatever it is.
David Meltzer 3.5 hours. And then in the hotel room after. Yeah.
Brutal. Like, there's been a lot of very hard things, but I borrowed the belief to get into the arena, and then I stayed in the arena long enough. So I would say hire a coach.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be hard to find. Is it impossible? Absolutely not. It's definitely possible. But this is a very unique circumstance where you and I grew up in the same town. We both wanted to kind of do the same thing. Like, it's a very
similar
unique
core
circumstance.
values.
Find a coach. Find a coach that, even if they're not like the David Meltzer or the Evan Carmichael, that's fine. Just find somebody who's a couple levels ahead of you, and they're going to. If they're a good coach, they're not going to let you make an excuse. Like, look, that's dumb. Like, what you're saying that's just a limiting belief.
Right.
They're going to call you out on your stuff, and they're going to force you to believe in yourself, like I did with Amy.
And
like
even
you've
if you
done
don't
with
believe
Amy.
in yourself, you'll do it because they said to do it, and then you'll learn.
Especially
you'll
if
get the results.
If you're an obliger, for sure.
Right. And that's a trip too, because I remember telling you the story about one of my clients. 8 months later, she wrote down every big win and some little ones, and I remember we went through all of them. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, I was a part of every single one of those.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about me, but I had this overwhelming moment of gratitude of, like, her entire life is different because of the coaching, like, in large part because of the coaching. And it's like, oh my God, like, good for her for having the courage to hire a coach. That's not extra money. Like, she doesn't have does she have more money than anyone listening? No.
Right.
She just had the courage to get in a room and stay in the room and do whatever it takes. And I actually just had a client reach back out to me who I talked to Kevin about this earlier, and this isn't about me again, but like, she's coming back, and I kind of knew she would, because in my mind, and I'm trying not to have an ego with this, but the things that we talked about and the things that we did in her business, I know those aren't things that are normal for her. That's not like conversations she normally has with certain people. And so I kind of knew, like, you're not going to be able to go back fully and then not regret it, at least on some level. And I do feel that way, and maybe that's because I believe so much in coaching and my own ability to help others. But if you're out there, that's the best piece of advice you can get, man. Like,
if you're listening to us,
right.
Let's just put it this way. If you're listening to a podcast and you enjoy the podcast, they probably know more than you do about the topic.
Right.
Or you wouldn't be listening to them.
Right.
And the next step of that, and I understand it's difficult. I think it's difficult from a lot of ways, like saying, I don't want to invest the money. Like, okay, I understand that.
Biggest mistake.
I mean, what are you already spending the money on?
Right.
And like, you can justify, I spent $65 the other night on UFC.
Right.
I told you I was going to do it. I did it,
Yeah.
right? Right. I spent $65 on UFC, but I still haven't ordered an office chair for the studio. Guess how much the office chair is? $65.
Yeah, right.
I literally thought about that.
Yeah.
I literally thought about that. So, and that's on me. That's my decision. But if you hire a good coach, they're going to help you make money. And if that's not their goal, they're going to help you become a better version of you, which is priceless at the end of the day. And but I do understand why it can be difficult to kind of invest that money. We talked about that. I don't remember what number it was. Go back, the $13 book versus the $13 cheeseburger.
Right.
Right? A $13 book can literally change your life.
Oh yeah, it will.
It will.
It will.
It will as long as you use it in the right way.
Right.
A $13 cheeseburger is going to change your day.
Right.
It's going to make you
Right.
less hungry, and then
Yeah.
probably you're going to be jeffed afterwards, maybe. You know?
I had cheeseburger yesterday. It's
Did you?
delicious. Yeah.
I have pizza when I go home.
I went out to lunch with my mom and sister. It was a good time.
Nice.
But so here's one thing I wanted to say too. You talk about, you often tell the story about Amy and you, okay? And you usually tell that story during the confidence conundrum.
Yes.
Okay, so something like this. It wasn't long ago where Amy was telling me that I think Tiff couldn't be on one of the masterminds and couldn't do the intro and outro on our mastermind in a live group of people. At one point, Amy was too scared with you to go talk to a stranger in a store in the mall. And now she's like, oh, don't worry, I'll do it. It's like she's a completely different human in 2 years, man.
Yeah.
Why? Because she got around us. And I don't mean us, like me and you, but like we have Dave and Evan, so we got around Dave and Evan.
Yeah.
So it's an elevating...
And she didn't do anything that she wasn't already capable of doing. She just needed somebody to push her to show, because she didn't have a reason to do it.
Exactly.
Nobody has a reason
to go to the mall.
Right. If you're watching this or listening, imagine something you're afraid of.
Right.
Okay? Like, what's a very common fear? Public speaking.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Public speaking.
Right.
You come to an event with Alan and I, and you say, Kev, oh my God, I just wish I could do it. I wish I could get up on that stage and tell my story. I will pull you up on stage.
Right.
I did it. I've done it.
Yeah.
Right? There wasn't a stage. But,
Yeah.
but I will. I literally will do it.
He
Why?
reached out to me the other day.
Did he?
Michael Gorman. Yeah,
Oh,
dude.
that's awesome.
It is awesome.
Michael
I told
Gorman.
him if he wants us to do a live Zoom with
Yeah.
TMF.
Shout out to Michael, powerful Michael Gorman.
Yep.
I literally pulled somebody up. What do you guys want to do with your life? Oh, I'd love to be a motivational speaker. Cool, get up here.
Yeah.
Cool, get up here.
Yeah.
Like, have you given a speech before? Okay, if not, here's your chance.
And push-ups.
Push-ups, yeah, push-ups. When in doubt, push up it out. But for me, it's like all I had to do was believe in Amy. I didn't have to teach her how to walk. I didn't have to teach her how to talk. I didn't have to teach her how to... All I had to do was put the one thing in her that she didn't have, belief.
Right.
And now she has a higher level of belief. Now, are there still things where it would be hard for her to do? Sure. But she's way more capable and way more likely to do that because all she knows now is she has to borrow the belief to do it.
Right.
And it's a different life.
Right.
I'm a great example of that too.
Yep.
Right? Like I'm not... If you haven't listened... What episode was the... episode 1? When we went back and listened to it? Do you know?
349. I'm almost positive.
449.
449. See?
Jeff and us out of
I'm saying it with absolute certainty.
So
I'm off by 100.
That might be, in my opinion, and I think you would second this, let me just find it, the most impactful episode we've ever done in terms of, that was 3 years ago.
Perspective, yeah.
449. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you go back and listen, like that Kevin is not this Kevin.
Not even close. It's not even close.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
So there's a reason, giant
that
reason.
Alan's not Alan either.
Right.
Johanna reached out and she said, thank you so much for being vulnerable and willing to do that, sitting in that discomfort with us as listeners. She said, you're so different and I can tell, but Kevin is drastic. And it's like, it's crazy, man, how far you've come.
Well, there was no personal development.
I've never seen more growth from anyone than you in the last 4 years.
I appreciate that.
Never.
I appreciate that.
But I think it's because you were willing to do this. You were willing to take the pain of failure more than anybody else.
Well, I honestly, and this keeps coming up, so I don't know what it's whatever sign it is from the universe. The Mindset by Carol Dweck. If you haven't read it, if you find yourself doubting yourself on a fairly consistent basis, that book is going to change your life.
Yeah.
Because it has these like, oh, I know that. Well, but am I doing that?
Right.
Like, and it goes into like childhood and how kids behave differently when they don't believe in themselves. Yeah. That book honestly will change your life. And because
Tom Billieu always shouts at that book.
Does he?
For a reason. Always, dude.
It's
every interview he's on.
All it is one thing. It's belief. And we went back. We did an episode that was called "The Number One Thing Holding You Back." I don't remember. That was hundreds ago.
Yeah.
But it was belief.
Yeah.
If you do not start, you'll never know what it's actually like to be in the arena.
Nope.
You cannot learn to swim by watching a YouTube video.
Nope.
You can learn how to swim.
Right.
But you're not going to learn actually how to swim. It's two different things.
I know.
You'll never know until you're in the water.
Right.
And if you don't believe that you can swim, you'll never try. And if you never try, you'll actually prove yourself right.
Have you ever met someone who can't swim?
Yes.
I have too.
I would say they can't swim yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fire reframe. This person I'm thinking of is one of my dear friend's mothers, and she had an incident when she was very, very young where she got caught up in lily pads. And I remember, I grew up on small ponds.
I almost
a small lake, big pond.
died in your pond.
Well, you were swimming drunk.
Yeah, very drunk. I'm not a strong swimmer either.
Yeah, and you go right to the bottom like a rock.
Yeah.
That was a fun night.
Yeah, it was great.
But anyway, so she had a traumatic incident with lily pads when she was younger. She used that story to not ever try again.
Yeah.
And whenever someone would say, "Wait, you can't swim? Like, why not?" She would say, "Oh, I had a traumatic incident when I was younger." And then that's the end of the conversation.
That's how it is for most people.
Okay, fair enough. Now take that She could swim. Of course she could.
Right.
I learned how to swim, I don't know, when I was like probably 7 or something. Anyone can. The only question is whether or not you're going to try and then keep trying.
Yeah, and this is the thing. And this is what I would say to this person. If your loved one was across the lake,
right,
and your life, their life, everybody's life counted on it, you'd find a way to swim.
You'd find a way, yeah.
But the thing is, you've never been put in that situation.
I know.
This is one of the reasons, and I don't ever suggest anybody ever does entrepreneurship the way I did it, in terms of like just leave everything else behind and go all in.
Right.
Because it's brutal.
Yeah.
But it also forced me to do things I would never have done.
I know.
And that has also allowed me to do things it forced me first, and now it allows me to.
Yeah.
Because now
Force
it's not
first, then power
yeah,
after.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. A Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Fire.
Listen to that book; it'll change your life.
If you don't believe you can, you'll never try, and therefore you're right. Don't let that be you.
I love it.
Don't let that be you. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a free PDF that is coming. I just want to keep reminding. That way when it comes out, we'll be able to get it to you guys. But we're going to take a ton of lessons from our live masterminds, a ton of lessons from everything that we've learned over all these episodes, and we're going to put it into a PDF. It'll be a deep dive, but it'll be easy to navigate for you guys. It'll literally be places where you can write in stuff. We'll be asking you questions. The system of success. It'll help you create your own system of success. It's going to be fire. It's going to be free, and it's for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't believe someone like Emilia existed. I said that I wanted to be with someone who's as ambitious and aspires to as much as me, and I didn't think that was out there, and call it what it is. It was a dumb belief. The moment that the team helped me understand that it was possible, now all of a sudden I have the love of my life. I, at one point, was in the macro failure cycle when it came to relationships. I didn't believe it existed, therefore I didn't look for it, therefore it didn't exist, to me at least. If you're out there, if it wasn't for Amy, Tiff, and Kevin, there's no way that I would have opened my mind to the possibility and therefore have met Emilia. Whatever that is for you, get in Hyperconscious Nation. There's no version of you joining Hyperconscious Nation and getting part of this community, and everyone's elevating. I'm not just saying this because of us. Like, every one of my clients' friends, one of my clients' husband, they're all elevating way beyond what they were at the beginning, and I'm seeing it time and time again. Get a part of Hyperconscious Nation. It's going to be life-changing. If you get around the right people, it'll change your life. Happened for Kevin, happened for me, happened for Amy, happened for Tiff, happening to Natalie right now. You got to do it.
And you're already doing it if you're listening to the show.
Right.
This is the top, and you can dive deeper and dive deeper and dive deeper, and that's when you really start to see les results. We hope you enjoyed this. I like that little French. And we will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.